Fat Joe was squashing the beef. I had it. And Irvin Ja was like, nah, we ain't squashing shit.
No,
but you
and I'm
squash
not
it
good because I didn't start it. And listen, I didn't start it, and I don't continue it. I mind my business.
So things just got real messy. Again, we're talking about 50 Cent and Ja Rule back at it. Out of nowhere, Ja just couldn't let it slide. He decided to stir the pot, tossing slick shots at 50 like it's still 2003. You'd think after all these years the smoke would have cleared, but nah. Ja still seems salty about how it all went down back in the day. And now guess who jumped into the drama? Fat Joe. Yeah, he's speaking up too, saying that Ja's the one keeping this ancient beef alive. Apparently, it all traces back to that wild night in Atlanta when 50 straight up knocked Ja out. That's the story. And it looks like Ja never really recovered from that L. Now it's all bubbling back to the surface, with Ja and 50 exchanging slick jabs on social media like they've been waiting for this moment. It's getting heated all over again. Ja kicked things off by hopping on X, tossing major shade while flexing about his tour money. He dropped a flashy montage from one of his packed shows and captioned it, "Y'all going to that Ja Rule concert?" Like he really wanted people to know he's still pulling crowds, but 50 wasn't about to stay quiet. He loves the chaos, and everyone knows it. And with Fat Joe chiming in, the whole situation feels like the early 2000s rap wars are back on the streets. Picture this, Ja Rule out here clowning, talking slick about 50 Cent. While he's on tour raking in 6 figures per show, he's flexing hard, posting, "Take notes, 50. This is what a real performer looks like, LMO." Oh, he really thought that was a mic drop moment. But come on, 50 ain't the type to just sit quiet and let someone talk greasy. A few days later, he came back swinging. He posted a screenshot of the numbers from his July 4th show at London's massive Tottenham Hotspur Stadium, completely sold out. Then he hit him with the savage caption, "How you gonna fight someone who's too stupid to realize they already lost? Just keep hitting them till they stop moving." Ouch. 50 made sure the whole world saw it, and it didn't stop there. Oh no, the drama got even hotter.
Yeah, Chaz, like, go in the hotel. Yeah, it was so good. All right, cool. Ja Rule there. This is after 50 got murdered. I don't believe you. Black child. I'm there. Nigga, 5th. KO'd that. So look. Ja Rule just come in the elevator. Murder! So look.
He didn't say that. He didn't say murder.
I can't.
Other voices started jumping in, throwing gas on the fire. First up was Tony Yayo, who just couldn't resist sharing a throwback story that's been living rent-free in his head for years. He spilled the tea about that infamous night in Atlanta, the one where 50 Cent straight up knocked Ja Rule out. Tony told it like it was some legendary street tale, reminding everyone that this beef is deep. And then, boom, Fat Joe jumped in and dropped some heavy truth. He said straight up, Ja Rule is still bitter because that beef with 50 Cent wrecked his career in ways most people don't even realize. According to Joe, 50 didn't just diss Ja, he went on a full-blown campaign to tear him down, piece by piece. He painted Murder Inc. as soft, and back in the early 2000s, that was deadly because street credibility meant everything in hip-hop. Joe broke it down. Ja was dominating the radio with those smooth, catchy hits that had everybody singing along. He was a superstar. But once 50 started clowning his street image and mocking his whole style, the streets started doubting him. Suddenly, the same fans who hyped Ja's music started seeing him as weak. Labels got nervous, promoters backed off, and just like that, Murder Inc.'s powerful run started crumbling. It got even worse when the label got tangled in a messy federal investigation. With all that heat, Ja's momentum didn't just slow down, it dried up completely. Fat Joe even revealed something crazy. He actually tried to step in and squash the beef. He said he saw how destructive this feud had become, not just for Ja, but for the entire New York hip-hop scene. Joe made a serious effort to broker peace between the two, thinking it could save careers and keep the city's rap legacy strong. But just when it seemed like there might be a real breakthrough, Irv Gotti and Ja Rule themselves shut it all down. They flat out told Joe they weren't interested in making peace at all. They wanted the smoke to keep going. Now, if you need a quick refresher on how this legendary beef really kicked off, let's rewind back to 1999. Ja Rule was in Southside Jamaica, Queens, shooting a music video when he got robbed. Straight up. Later, 50 Cent spilled in his memoir, that it was actually one of his boys who pulled off the robbery, throwing a whole new light on the situation. But Ja Rule, he had a completely different story. Yeah, he admitted the robbery went down, but he swore he never saw 50 with the dude who did it. According to Ja, the real drama wasn't even about the robbery. He claimed it all started when 50 got in his feelings after being iced out by the Murder Inc. crew during their video shoot for Ja's track Murder for Life.
We buy Ja Rule's tickets, like seats at his concert. You did?
Cheap tickets. The tickets were very affordable.
Right.
They was on like StubHub. Yeah, I bought the first 4
How
rows.
How many did you buy? If you say you bought the first 4 rows, is that a couple hundred?
Yeah, it was cheap though. It was cheap tickets, so it was something.
Basically, 50 felt disrespected, left out, and that's when things started turning ugly. Soon after, 50 dropped Life's on the Line, a track that didn't mention Ja by name, but everyone knew who it was aimed at. And to make it even messier, he mocked Murder Inc.'s infamous murder chant, taking direct shots at their whole vibe. That's when the tension hit a boiling point. Eventually, things turned physical in Atlanta. It wasn't just talk anymore. Ja and 50 actually threw hands. Both of their chains got snatched in the fight, and word on the street is that someone from 50's crew walked away with Ja's pendant. According to 50, they later swapped it back for a Movado watch like it was some petty trophy exchange. But Ja denied that whole story, saying 50 had nothing to do with his chain getting snatched. It was just more back and forth about who really held the upper hand. Fast forward to March 2000, word hit the streets that 50 Cent was recording at the legendary Hit Factory in NYC. And guess who pulled up? Ja Rule and his crew. Things got real tense, real quick. What started as just a confrontation turned chaotic, and 50 ended up getting stabbed.
Know what you heard about me, but you can't get a dollar out of me.
Both Ja and Murder Inc.'s Black Child were arrested after the incident. Later on, Black Child openly took credit for the stabbing, saying it was all self-defense. But here's the wild part. 50 didn't even drag it out in interviews or cry about it publicly. He just brushed it off like it was another day in the life and kept it moving, unfazed by the whole thing. That's the kind of energy he brought. He wasn't about to let one incident slow down the bigger picture. But of course, it didn't stop there. 2 years later, in 2002, 50 made a major move. He signed a multi-million-dollar deal with Shady Aftermath, aligning himself with Eminem and Dr. Dre, 2 of the biggest names in the game. That deal changed everything. Soon after, he dropped the No Mercy, No Fear mixtape with G-Unit, and that's when the track Wanksta came into play. Wanksta was a straight-up diss aimed directly at Ja Rule and Murder Inc. It hit the streets hard in 2002, featured on the No Mercy, No Fear mixtape, and then got even bigger after landing on the 8 Mile soundtrack. That song became one of the first tracks that catapulted 50 into full-blown mainstream fame. And the lyrics, pure venom. 50 mocked rappers who bragged about money and street life, but were actually broke and soft in reality, calling out how they used street credibility like a marketing gimmick, but couldn't back up the tough talk when it came to real action. It was a direct shot at Ja, stripping away whatever street image he had left. Meanwhile, after the whole Hit Factory stabbing incident, Irv Gotti tried flipping the narrative and accused 50 Cent of filing an order of protection against Ja Rule and Murder Inc. Basically, he was trying to call out 50's street credibility, making it look like 50 was scared and running to the cops for backup.
We buy Ja Rule's tickets, like seats at his concert.
You did? Cheap tickets. The tickets were very affordable.
Right.
They was on like StubHub. Yeah, I bought the first 4
How
rows.
many did you buy? If you say you bought the first 4 rows, is that a couple hundred?
Yeah, it was cheap though. It was cheap tickets, so it was something to do. Like if you.
But here's the real part Gotti left out. The order of protection was legit, but it wasn't something 50 personally asked for. It was automatically issued by the NYPD after the incident, like standard procedure. But Ja Rule didn't care about the details. He grabbed that paperwork and posted it online, calling 50 a straight-up rat. That was a heavy accusation, especially in the hip-hop world where being labeled a snitch could destroy your rep. Of course, you already know 50 wasn't going to let that slide. He came back swinging with Back Down, a ruthless diss track that tore apart Ja's image and completely torched Murder Inc.'s street credibility. 50 didn't just throw a few punches. He went for the jugular, exposing every weakness and making it sound effortless. But just 2 months later, Ja Rule came back with Loose Change, and he went nuclear. He didn't just take aim at 50, he went for everybody. He dissed G-Unit, Eminem, Haley, Dr. Dre, Busta Rhymes, and even Chris Lighty. Ja accused 50 of being a snitch again, tossed a homophobic jab at Dre, made wild claims about Eminem's crew, and even dragged Eminem's wife into the mess. But 50 wasn't alone. He had heavy hitters on his side. He, Eminem, and Busta Rhymes clapped back hard with Hail Mary, a vicious parody remixing Tupac's classic. They mocked Ja's obsession with trying to be like Pac and dismantled him bar by bar, leaving nothing standing.
I'm not a rapper. I never was with this rapper shit. I just was along for the ride, no thing. I wasn't with all this rapper shit. You heard? Fifth, he is Southpaw. Fifth of Southpaw.
Yeah. Hold on. What is wait.
Any rapper want to...
It was pure humiliation in front of the entire rap game. After Hail Mary dropped, it felt like the whole rap game turned its back on Ja Rule and Murder, Inc. That diss wasn't just music. It was a straight-up public execution of their credibility. Suddenly, Ja's tough guy image was shredded, and the streets weren't riding with him anymore. Fans started clowning him for trying too hard to be like Tupac, while 50 and G-Unit were looking unstoppable. And as if the beef wasn't already killing their momentum, Murder, Inc. had got hit with even more heat. Federal investigations. The feds came down on Irv Gotti and the label over alleged money laundering ties, putting the whole operation under a dark cloud. Radio stations got hesitant to spin their records, labels started distancing themselves, and the industry vibe shifted overnight. Meanwhile, 50 Cent was skyrocketing. He dropped Get Rich or Die Tryin', and it sold like crazy, millions of copies flying off the shelves. Every hit single he released was like another nail in Murder, Inc.'s coffin. Tracks like In Da Club and Many Men became anthems, drowning out anything Ja Rule tried to put out. Ja did try to fight back with new singles and even switched his style to more R&B heavy tracks.
Don't look at me like that, man.
All right, man.
We know for years. It's just, I looked at it, I said, yo, this is the... I just want you to feel like you gotta reach the people. There's like 4 or 5 rows back.
What is this? That 2 decades later.
Hoping to win the ladies back. But the streets, they weren't having it. Every time Ja dropped something, 50 would swoop in with a savage diss or a clowning interview, keeping the beef alive and making Ja look weaker. By the mid-2000s, Ja Rule's career was hanging by a thread. The hits that once dominated the charts weren't connecting the same way, and every time he tried to drop new music, 50 Cent was right there to overshadow it with another banger, or worse, another joke at Ja's expense. It was like 50 made it his personal mission to make sure Ja couldn't breathe in the industry. 50 kept clowning Ja in interviews, on mixtapes, even in music videos. Remember the Piggy Bank video? 50 went all out, using cartoons to mock Ja, Fat Joe, and Jadakiss, making them look like straight-up jokes to the fans, and it worked. Hip-hop was laughing, not vibing with Ja anymore. Ja tried switching lanes completely, leaning into R&B collabs and softer tracks with Ashanti, hoping to win back the mainstream audience, but that only gave 50 more ammo, calling him soft and saying he abandoned the streets. The credibility Ja once had was gone, and in hip-hop, once the streets turn on you, it's almost impossible to get that respect back.
It's still this.
No, I mean, it's not that big of a sacrifice for me. Now, I've bought things that mean less to me.
Right.
Oh my gosh. That was fun. That was like watching it. Let me see the show and see the spaces are empty. Because they are reserved for someone else. They're not supposed to be sitting.
That's brutal. That's so brutal.
Meanwhile, 50 was untouchable. He launched G-Unit clothing, signed new artists, dropped the massacre, and stayed dominating radio, TV, and the mixtape circuit. Even when Ja tried one last major comeback with the album R-U-L-E. It barely made a dent because the narrative was already locked. 50 Cent had won, and he didn't let Ja forget it either. For years, 50 kept trolling him on social media, bringing up old stories, buying out entire front rows of Ja's concerts just to leave them empty, and keeping the beef alive whenever it started to fade. It became less of a rivalry and more like 50 just enjoyed toying with him. Ja Rule tried one last major pivot with his 5th album, Blood in My Eye, switching up to a harder, more aggressive street style, hoping to prove he could still bring that raw energy. But it backfired hard. Critics slammed the project, saying it felt forced, and fans weren't buying the new persona either. It just didn't hit like his earlier classics, Pain is Love or The Last Temptation. After that flop, Ja never came close to reclaiming the success he once had. Eventually, even Ja and Irv Gotti had to face the truth. They were losing the war. The Murder Inc. empire that once ruled the charts had officially crumbled, and 50 Cent was standing tall on the other side. But 50? Oh, he still wasn't done. In 2014, more than a decade after the peak of the beef, he trolled Ja yet again, this time at Hot 97's Summer Jam. 50 hit the stage and performed his diss track, I Smell Pee, just to remind the entire crowd and the whole rap world who really came out on top. It was straight up disrespect on a grand stage, and of course, Ja couldn't just let it slide. He clapped back in his memoir, Unruly, the highs and lows of becoming a man, doubling down on that old claim that 50 snitched to the feds, which supposedly led to Murder Inc. getting raided. But 50 quickly denied it as always and didn't miss a chance to keep trolling.
Wait. How did it what did run up and say?
Murder! I'm from the hood. I would still make my phone was still ringing. Nigga, I had spins on my phone.
The back and forth got so petty that it pushed Ja over the edge. He completely snapped on social media, ranting that he owns 50's soul and even calling him his bitch. But all it really did was give 50 even more material to clown him with. Fast forward to today, and somehow this decades-old beef is still alive, louder than ever. Social media gave it a whole new life, and Ja Rule just can't resist throwing shade every now and then. Recently, Ja started flexing about his tour numbers, posting packed-out shows and dropping captions aimed straight at 50, trying to remind people he's still relevant. But 50, he lives for this kind of smoke. He fired back instantly, flexing even bigger wins like sold-out stadiums overseas and mocking Ja for living in the past. And just when it felt like the same old back and forth, Fat Joe decided to jump into the mix. Joe, who's always been cool with both sides, finally spoke up and said what a lot of people were thinking, that Ja Rule is still bitter and can't let go because the feud destroyed his career. He even reminded folks that 50 didn't just diss Ja. He dismantled Murder Inc.'s entire street cred and left them wide open for the feds. That statement hit hard because it came from someone with real respect in the game. Of course, that only stirred up more drama. Fans started rehashing old stories, reposting throwback interviews, and taking sides like it's 2003 all over again. Ja fired off cryptic posts, 50 dropped memes clowning him, and the internet ate it all up like a fresh rap soap opera. What's wild is, after all these years, neither of them is willing to bury it. Ja still wants respect. 50 still wants to prove he owns the narrative. And now Fat Joe's comments have reignited the whole fire for a new generation of fans to witness. Ja Rule finally snapped back with pure disrespect. He said, "Let's be clear, I mind my business. But for some reason, 50 Cent keeps my name in his mouth. I think he'd rather have my D in his mouth, LMAO. It was a straight up low blow, aimed to humiliate." But you already know 50 wasn't gonna let that slide. He responded with one of the pettiest moves in rap beef history. He literally bought 200 tickets to one of Ja's concerts, just so the entire front rows would be completely empty. Imagine performing your heart out, while the first few rows are just blank seats. 50 didn't just clown Ja online, he embarrassed him in real life for the whole world to see. But here's the thing, this feud goes way beyond petty jokes and memes. There's a darker layer to it that's been whispered about for years. Rumors have always swirled that the beef runs deeper than rap. Some even believe Ja Rule might have had indirect ties to the 2000 shooting that almost killed 50 Cent, the one where he got hit 9 times. Now, nothing was ever officially proven, but people in the streets connected dots. They claimed Ja Rule and Murder Inc. were tight with Kenneth Supreme McGriff, a notorious Queens kingpin who already had his own beef with 50. After Supreme got out of prison, Irv Gotti and Ja supposedly hired him as security for Murder Inc. On paper, it was a legit bodyguard job, but everyone knew Supreme still had serious street ties. That move made Murder Inc. look tougher by association, but it also made the beef with 50 way more dangerous. Suddenly, it wasn't just rap disses, it had the kind of energy that could spill into real street violence. The Supreme McGriff connection was where things really took a dark turn. Kenneth Supreme McGriff wasn't just any street dude, he was a Queens legend, a name that carried serious weight in the drug game during the 80s and 90s. When he got out of prison, Irv Gotti and Ja Rule brought him in as security for Murder Inc. On paper, it looked clean. But in reality, everybody knew Supreme still had deep ties to the streets. That move didn't just make Murder Inc. look more intimidating, it also put a giant target on their backs. The feds were already watching Supreme like a hawk, and once they saw him connected to a major record label, it drew even more attention. Suddenly, Murder Inc. wasn't just a hit-making machine, it was being painted as a front for street activity. And this is where the whispers got crazy. Some people started speculating that Supreme's beef with 50 Cent, combined with Ja Rule's issues, might have played a role in the infamous 2000 shooting when 50 was hit 9 times outside his grandma's house. Again, nothing was ever proven, but the streets never stopped talking. 50 himself hinted in interviews that he believed the shooting was tied to people affiliated with Murder Inc. Not long after, federal investigators raided Murder Inc.'s offices in 2003, looking for evidence of money laundering connected to Supreme. That raid sent shockwaves through the industry, making labels and promoters nervous to work with Ja or Irv. Even if Ja Rule wasn't directly involved in anything criminal, the perception alone was enough to sink his career further. Meanwhile, 50 kept using all of this as ammo. He would drop interviews throwing subliminals, reminding everyone of the street ties Murder Inc. had, and making it sound like Ja needed serious backup to even stand in the same lane. It reinforced 50's image as the lone wolf who survived everything, while Ja looked like someone hiding behind bigger players. So here's how the theory goes. 50 Cent's track, Ghetto Koran, supposedly rubbed Supreme the wrong way, exposing things from the streets that weren't meant for the spotlight. Word is that disrespect sparked serious anger, and not long after, a hit was allegedly put out on 50. That's when he got shot 9 times outside his grandma's house. Whether you believe that story or not, it definitely explains why this beef between 50 and Ja Rule has stayed alive for decades. This isn't just some rap battle. This might be way deeper than anyone really knows. So what do you think? Is this just typical rap beef that spiraled out of control? Or is it tied to something much more serious in the streets? Do you honestly see any chance of 50 and Ja ever squashing this? Or is it way too far gone now? Too much history? Too much pain? Too much pride? Drop your thoughts in the comments. I want to know how you see it. And don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to stay locked in on all the wild stories from the rap game's most infamous beefs. You already know. There's always more drama lurking just around the corner. Stick with me, because next time we're diving into what's really going down in our hood next.